Humanity was known as the great peacekeeper, a people who knew war as we all did, but they always did what they could to avoid it. They hid much of themselves in their histories, saying there would be a day when it was time for us to know. The Zeskian came 15,000 years ago, a rather ruthless species, but nothing that hadn't been seen before. Humanity kept them at arm's length, almost knowing what would happen. A great armada set fire to our worlds, to our homes, and the work of 1,000 Zeskian generations was set into place as they set loose to enslave the galaxy. We looked to the humans to bring peace. We realized why humanity clung to peace so tight that day, because peace was the only thing attaching the veil. And now it is gone. I remember the initial broadcast from the outer colonies. The Zeskian did not come with demands or ultimatums. They simply came with fire. The first report reached our council chambers at dawn, brought by a trembling Calthian messenger whose scales had turned from bronze to a sickly gray. 3 solar systems are gone. Entire civilizations, some that stood for 10,000 years, reduced to cosmic dust and radiation in the span of hours. The Zeskian weapons were not crude or slow. They were precise, efficient, and hungry. Our council convened in an emergency session. I was younger then, barely 200 cycles old, young enough to still believe in the old stories. The Sethri offered their defensive technologies. The Morith brought their considerable military strength. Even the pacifist Valians, who had not raised a weapon in recorded history, pledged their support. We all turned our eyes to Earth, to humanity. The human ambassador, a wise old man who had guided our great council of governance for nearly a human century, sent a file showing the whole of mankind's history to us all. 2 world wars. Acts while they defied definition. A nuclear war, but 24 years into its first modern era. Then the true cruelty set afoot. A single nation born of the ashes of the great superpower set loose upon the soil, anointing the planet in oceans of blood. They were a species who had perfected death before it even knew fire. This new nation set loose on the earth and left none besides alive. War machines that still echo in my night terrors, proudly bearing names of battles and more terribly massacres. A human thinker had penned the phrase, when all is to be lost, humanity loses its humanity above all. I had studied that file with growing unease. The images burned themselves into my consciousness. The camps, the ovens, the children, the weapons that split atoms and cities alike. The biological agents are engineered in sterile laboratories, designed purely to maximize suffering. And through it all, the persistent, haunting refrain from human philosophers and artists, we are better than this. We must be better than this. But were they? That was the question that began to crack the foundation of everything we believed. 3 months passed as the Zeskian advance continued. 20 systems fell, then 50. Their pattern was methodical, crushing resistance before moving to the next target with the precision of a guillotine falling. We had hoped that humanity, with their vast hidden resources and their reputation for cunning, would mount a defense. Instead, they were silent. The ambassador attended our meetings but offered no military assistance, no technology, no strategies. He simply listened, sometimes nodding slowly, as if hearing a familiar song. When pressed directly by the Calthian representative to commit to our mutual defense, he smiled sadly and said only, "Not yet. You must understand first. There are lessons that cannot be taught, only learned." The words chill me then. Now they still chill me. On the day of the ambassador's revelation, the council chambers were packed beyond capacity. Representatives from 17 major civilizations crowded into the amphitheater, their fear palpable like a living thing in the recycled air. The Zeskian had issued their ultimatum through all communication channels. Surrender your weapons, submit to integration into the Zeskian collective, or face extinction. The deadline was 72 hours away. The time for careful diplomacy and measured response had passed. The Zeskian representative, a towering creature of chitinous armor and compound eyes that reflected nothing of the light within them, had beamed with confidence. His species had conquered 43 galactic powers before us. We would be 44. He sat in the visitors' section, secure in his certainty, perhaps even amused by our obvious distress. When the Zeskian representative laughed and jeered, "What shall you do? Sanction us, lecture us, Give us 5 good reasons why what we're doing is wrong. All humanity contains nothing but painters and politicians. Humanity is weak. Something shifted in the chamber. It was as if the air itself had changed density. We all saw what he didn't. A species with blood, its own blood, so much blood on itself. It wore that blood under a thin veil of kindness. The human ambassador rose slowly from his seat. He had always seemed to move carefully, deliberately, as if conscious of taking up space in a room. But now, his movement had a different quality. There was purpose in it, inevitability. He stood in the center of the council floor, beneath the great dome that had witnessed 1,000,000 decisions across 10,000 years of civilization. For a moment, he simply looked at the Zeskian representative. No words, no expression, just a look that carried the weight of species and centuries. Then he laughed. It was not the laugh of a diplomat or a statesman. It was cold, heartless, echoing in my mind in the council chambers like the death rattle of something ancient and terrible. Several council members flinched. The Zeskians' compound eyes widened fractionally, the only tell of emotion they ever showed. What do you know of humanity? The ambassador spoke, his voice emotionless, cold, unfeeling, unhuman in its flatness. The humanities, perhaps, diplomacy, art, philosophy, trade, love, lust, knowledge. You know us as humanity, but we are not. We are not. Humanity is the cover we wear, a facade to hide the truth. Now you shall see true humanity in stark, naked reality. On old web forums of the human networks, stories of humanity's benevolence, kindness, restraint in the face of adversity. They feared true human nature. They sought to put themselves above the animals they shared the dirt with. But humanity learned its true nature when the great war convoys burned swaths through the wastes of the old world. Humanity understands its nature now, 150,000 years after our home was engulfed in hellfire. We put on a face for our friends, and we hope we could keep that face. But you attacked us unprovoked. You shall stare into the true eyes of a species that sold its collective soul millennia ago. We know what we are. The ambassador's voice dropped lower, each word falling like a hammer strike in the silence that had consumed the chamber. Even more benevolent animals exist in this galaxy, for they kill out of nature and hunger. But we kill for spite, for vengeance. We take joy in your suffering. We are savage. We are cruel. We hope we could change. We hope that by hiding ourselves away, by focusing on art and philosophy and love, that we could transcend our nature. We hope the sword would rust. But now, the grindstone is set to metal, and it shall be loosed upon you. But your kind, are different from us. We know what evil we are, but you view your evil as good. You consume other species like parasites, believing yourselves righteous in your hunger. We are monsters, but you are fools, too blind to understand your own nature outside of blind obedience to it. We understand ours well. We hope we wouldn't have to show it. I watched as the Zeskian representative began to rise from his seat, his mandibles clicking in what might have been anger or alarm. He never made it to his feet. We dropped the covering. The ambassador continued, his voice gaining strength, shedding the last vestiges of pretense. We let our arts, our diplomacy, our philosophy, and love fall away, and now you see us bare. We show you what we truly are, what we have always been beneath the mask. Pray to your gods for mercy, for you shall see none from us. The ambassador raised a small device no larger than a human hand. For a moment, there was silence so profound I thought the universe itself had ceased to exist. Then came a sound like thunder, a weapon of such focused violence that it caught the Zeskian representative mid-jump. Searing through his armor hide like paper, he crashed to the ground, his legs no longer functioning, his compound eyes wide with something that might have been fear or shock. The wound did not kill him. That was intentional. I understood this only later, when the true horror of what was about to unfold became apparent. The ambassador stepped forward slowly, deliberately, until he stood over the writhing creature. He seemed to be waiting for something. The Zeskian representative's mandibles continued to click, perhaps trying to form words in his own language, perhaps simply the involuntary spasming of a creature in agony. Before you die, the ambassador said quietly, you should know what is about to happen to your kind. While you came to conquer us with 17 fleets, we have been watching. We have been waiting. For 150,000 years since the Zeskian last raided our sector, we have built in secret. We do not build monuments or cities as other species do. We build weapons." He paused, and in that pause, I heard the first communication come through on emergency frequency. It was a voice I did not recognize, cold and mechanical in its precision. "All Starkiller dreadnoughts, you are authorized to enter assigned systems. An extermination order has been given. Kill them all." The Zeskian representative made a sound, not a word, but a primitive expression of anguish. The ambassador looked down at him with what might have been pity. "Your Armada will never reach home," the ambassador said. "Your fleet stations are being destroyed as we speak. Your colonies are being erased from existence. Your breeding worlds are burning. We have calculated that your species will be extinct within the next 60 hours. Not a single Zeskian will survive, not even in deep space, not even in hiding. We have had 150,000 years to prepare for this moment, and we have made certain that there are no exceptions, no survivors, no stories to tell your species' final days." The ambassador turned away from the representative, stepping back toward the center of the council chamber. Every eye in the room was upon him, fixed in a mixture of horror and terrible understanding. We had just witnessed a moment when the mask truly fell away. "I know what you feel," he said, addressing not the Zeskian but the council. "I see it in your eyes. Horror, disgust, perhaps even fear of humanity itself. And you are right to feel these things. We are exactly what we have shown you. We are a species that learned how to commit atrocities before we learned how to write poetry. We perfected the art of genocide before we perfected medicine. We are the monster you have always feared, the chaos that lurks beneath the ordered galaxy." The Calthian representative stood, his form trembling with rage and fear. "You cannot do this," he cried out. "This is murder on a scale that history will never forgive. 100 civilizations will rise against you. We will mount a resistance, will you?" the ambassador asked, and his voice held the weight of absolute certainty. "Will you gather your forces against us? Will you become enemies of a species that has just proven it can erase an empire in the span of a day? No, you will not, because we have also calculated what you will do. We know the political calculations of every civilized species in this galaxy. We know where your interests lie and where they don't. Most of you will do nothing. A few brave or foolish enough to resist will face extinction as well. The choice is yours." He raised the communication device again, and in that moment, I realized the extent of what humanity had done. In their quiet centuries of hiding, in their careful study of our histories and our politics, they had learned something that no other species had truly understood. That the only difference between civilization and barbarism is the will to maintain the pretense. "Stand down," the ambassador said into the device. "The Zeskian representative has fallen. Continue the extermination sequence. Show no mercy. Record everything for the archives. I want humanity to remember this day, to understand what we have done and what we are capable of doing." In the council chamber, no one moved. We sat in stunned silence as the first reports began to filter in through our communication systems. The Zeskians' home world was burning. Their fleet was being systematically destroyed. Their colonies, their research stations, their breeding facilities, all of them were being targeted with scientific precision. The Zeskian representative died 3 hours later, despite our attempts to save him. Whether the ambassador's shot had been designed to kill slowly or whether the injuries themselves were simply too severe, I never discovered. But in those final hours, he heard the reports. He heard that his species was being erased. And he died knowing that there would be no resurrection, no survivors, no last remnants that might one day rebuild. Humanity has kept its word. They had shown us what they truly were, stripped of all pretense and all mercy. In the weeks that followed, I watched our galaxy change. Some species attempted to ally against humanity, but they were half-hearted in their efforts. The Zeskian had been one of the strongest military powers in known space, and we all understood what the ambassador had made clear. Humanity had resources and technologies beyond even our wildest estimates. The cost of conflict with them would be our extinction. So we negotiated. We submitted. We did what we had to do to survive. The ambassador remained as a human representative on our council, but something had changed in how we treated him. Where once he had been welcomed and respected, Now there was an undercurrent of fear. He sat among us, a reminder of what lay beneath every species. The capacity for terrible, inexplicable violence. I began to understand what the ambassador had meant about the veil. For millions of years, civilized species maintained the pretense that we were above our primal natures, that we had evolved beyond the need for violence and conquest. We told ourselves stories of progress, of enlightenment, of transcendence. But beneath every empire, beneath every council, lay the same core truth, the willingness to destroy if threatened, if provoked, if given sufficient cause. Humanity has simply been more honest about it. They had studied their own history with unflinching clarity and accepted the conclusion that they were not inherently good or evil, merely capable of both an extraordinary measure. Sometimes, late in the night cycles, I found myself wondering if they were right, if beneath all our art and philosophy, all our carefully constructed laws and ethics, there existed a similar vein of darkness in every species, or if humanity was simply unique in recognizing it, accepting it, and being willing to act upon it without the comforting lies the rest of us told ourselves. The Zeskian are gone now, completely. Not a single one remains in any database we could find. It is as if they never existed, except the fact that humanity left them recorded, documented, and made permanent in the archives, a warning written in extinction. I still hear the shot that wounded the Zeskian representative in my night terrors. I still hear the order given with such bureaucratic calm. All Starkiller dreadnoughts, you're authorized to enter assigned systems. An extermination order has been given. Kill them all. And I understand now why the human ambassador smiled when he gave that order. Not because he took joy in it, though perhaps some part of him did, but because it was a moment when the mask truly fell away, when the galaxy finally saw what humanity had always known about itself. We are still here. All of us. The Setheri, the Calthian, the Morith, even the Valians. We survive beneath the shadow of humanity's truth, and we have learned to live with it. We have learned that the price of safety is acceptance, and the cost of acceptance is a knowledge that at any moment it provokes sufficiently, any of us might become the monster that lies beneath. The ambassador still attends our council meetings. He still speaks with courtesy and maintains the protocols of diplomacy. But now we all know what he truly is beneath the civilized facade, and we maintain our own facades all the more carefully, all the more desperately, because we understand now how thin the veil truly is, how easily it can fall away.